Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Welcome aboard. Today we are here with the Journeyman, Marlon Weems, and of course myself, Egberto Willies with Egberto Off the Record. Both of us are active here on Substack. Today we want to discuss quite a few things. What's on your mind, first of all, Marlon?
Well, today is what we that I guess us folks that were formerly in the finance arena call Fed Day. So, the Federal Reserve Open Market Committee they've been in a 2-day meeting that started yesterday. They come out today, this afternoon, and, I don't think it's going to be a big surprise. They're probably going to cut interest rates a quarter of a point. It's already, factored in really. And, so that's kind of what's up today. I've actually been, other than talking about that, I've actually been looking at what's going on with the prediction markets. And, we can take that up just if you like.
What are the prediction markets saying? I saw a crazy prediction about January and the expectation that something serious may go down in the Trump administration. But I don't want to talk about that speculation because I kind of report on fact-based.
You think it's going to take that long for something crazy to go down? I think while we're talking, something crazy is going to go down in the Trump administration.
Yeah.
No, really, I've been looking at it on more of a macro level. For folks who don't know, I guess sort of the two big names that we're familiar with, Polymarket is one, and Kalshi is the other one. I keep wanting to say Kashi. I think that's cereal or something.
Right.
Anyway, those are two, of the premier prediction markets. And what's happening, this is actually something that when I was back in my my life after trading, but before Substack, I was I guess you'd call it a subject matter expert. Anyway, a company hired me that was in the business of trying to crack the code on how do you use like sentiment analysis, feelings, that sort of thing.
To create a model.
Well, yeah, they said they had created a model. And again, this was 10 years ago, to basically look at sentiment of a particular stock. And, that might give you a window into whether it was going to go up or down. And you could be a little early, in front of the pack, that kind of thing. I never saw their product, but I did write the report. And it was talking about what you're seeing, what apparently, Polymarket and Kashi have done, which is figure out how to put a dollar amount on sentiment or truth in a way, And so why do I bring that up? Because the Intercontinental Exchange, which owns the New York Stock Exchange, just last month agreed to invest $2 billion in Polymarket.
That's all that.
And so what does that tell you? That what they intend to do in some form is integrate, that data feed of sentiment into the stock market, and I won't overcomplicate it, but just this is so similar to what happened back when algorithms got introduced. There was a day when there were no algorithms. I'm old enough to remember. But this is very similar, but it's media now that, so that's what's happening with Polymarket. At the same time, CNN is going to be introducing Kalshi data into their newsfeed. So what you'll have, and you know what? I mean, there's an argument that it may actually be a much better indicator of what's really going on, because when you think about it, what do we have now? We got pundits and talking heads, and they're telling it folks like me and you. I mean, but on especially traditional media. We've got polls. Well, I would argue that either Kalshi or Polymarket is operating on a much bigger data set in terms of what people think. And I think what makes it more valuable to a CNN or to, a stock market operator is that when me and you are wrong, we're just wrong. Maybe we're a little embarrassed. But if you're on Polymarket and you're wrong, it costs you money. You lose money. So if you think about it from that point of view, it may actually give us a clearer picture of what people really think about, ex-president's performance, because you can pull that data. What are they betting? Are they betting it against the economy? Are they betting for the economy? They think inflation is going up or not. I mean, so that essentially that's kind of what's going on right now is these gambling markets essentially are being integrated into finance and into media. And I'm sure nothing will go wrong, but that's what's up.
Interesting enough, I know of major newspapers, the one here local as well. They have bots already that scour the internet and write the articles for. And the newspaper, if you look deep enough into the fine print, you'll actually see that a lot of articles are just the article that goes out is actually first screened by a human being, but a lot of it, written by AI, etc. So I mean, we're going into uncharted territories. Look, I don't have a problem with AI. A lot of people are concerned about AI. I don't have a problem with AI if we the people own AI. What I have a problem with is when we have it in the hands of a few, like the example you just gave with
Polymarket.
I saw, Polymarket was developed by a kid. Okay. And
the same thing with Kalshi. It's like a woman who used to be a ballerina and somehow she switched over into, machine learning or something. And, smart people though.
Yeah, I don't. The problem that I have is none of this comes with context, right?
No, it's just raw. It's raw.
Yeah, none of this stuff come with context, and it's a thing that concerns me a whole lot. But that aside, I am all for us doing as much as we can with AI to make life better for others. But right now, what I am seeing is AI used by the folks with capital to corner a market. And just like the $2 billion paid to this kid, and I should call him a kid, but it's paid to this person to capture that market. And in effect, there are two things that happen there, right? They take him out of the market of independence, if you will, and absorb him into the same good old boy network by who purchased the thing. So that's one thing, as opposed to having all these independent things. These guys do what capital always buy. I see something successful independently and I throw all the capital at it and then I own it. The same people continue to own. So I really have a problem with that concept. Same thing with AI. All these data centers that are going up, great. But we have the billionaire boys that are now controlling everything. That's our thought process. What I explained to folks a few times is that, Marlon, you have a Substack, right? And your Substack has a lot of good information, research information, things that come out of your own mind that you thought of, you analyzed, then you figured out how to do all of this. And guess what you've done? You've given that away for free. And now a billionaire is going to use the data that you have in your Substack as a part of their model. And that will be when somebody asks their chat box a question, a piece of Marlon Weems' Journeyman's knowledge is going to be sold, and guess who won't get a penny out of it? A guy named Marlon Weems. So those are it is great to have all these concepts, but when not understood, it is when you go into the depths of what's really happening, you start to say, what we need to be able to have true regulations that rein these guys in. Earlier, you mentioned about the young Marlon Weems is very smart. Let's start there. Marlon Weems is very smart, and I want to make a point here. We have a tendency to look at, let's say, Wonder Boy Gates or Wonder Boy, the guy who did this thing at this Polymarket.
Yeah.
These guys are so smart. And then you look at the technology that is actually used to build these things, and it is technology that's always been there that was developed by somebody else. He just said, you know what? I have this idea, a good idea, albeit, and does it using the intellect and so forth of everybody else that came up with the procedures and calculations and formulas to do what he's doing. And then he capitalizes on it. And part of that capitalization is to use some of Marlon Weems' knowledge. We have to have a better system than we have right now.
Well, we don't. I think this is something maybe that Europe has tried to deal with. I think after 2016 and the whole thing with Facebook and with data, and we don't really own our data, especially when it comes to AI. I mean, look, there are things you can do, like in Substack. There's a setting that where AI doesn't use your stuff. Okay. Um, I use Chat GPT. I go ahead and pay $20 a month just to kind of be, in my own little ecosystem. But I hope they're not lying. But I'll tell you what, Google yourself. Dude, I Googled myself the other day. It gave me back, because it's that AI is built into all of these browsers now. I don't even use Google. I use, a different, just one that nobody's ever heard of that's supposed to be a little more secure, right? Brave is the name of it. But anyway, It gave me a short essay on me.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, I'm going to print this. This is pretty good.
Let me just say this, Marlon. Anytime you see something about what they're doing with not securing your data or whatever, it's bunk. Everything that you can pull up on Marlon Weems is searchable and has already been absorbed by the AI system. Okay, by the AI data, and I smile I'm a software developer, right? So I developed all kind of stuff. Now I'm not. I want to give a mea culpa in that I don't develop AI type software, but I develop real time software. Okay, and analytics and that sort, not analytic, running machines and that kind of stuff. But what gets me is because it's so mystical to some, people think this is magic when it is just raw data power and raw database analysis. And then the logic comes into, you notice when you go into, when you talk about Chat GPT version 5.1, 4.0, they may have Perplexity that have its own. The logic that they talk about has a lot to do with the algorithm that some other human being decided to choose on. So It isn't, they would have you believe that there's this magical thing out there. There ain't no magical thing. This is all human made. The analysis that's being done is being done based on the algorithm that the humans have told them to kind of secure. And when they talk about it going off on its own, it goes off on its own based on the algorithm that the human beings have placed in there. None of this is magic. It reminds me of how the media handle Y2K. It reminds me of how the media handle all these different things. They make it exotic or more than something is. Is AI powerful? Yes. Is AI going to cost a lot of jobs? Yes. But is AI something that is that we should be scared of? No. AI is something that we need to regulate. It's that simple. And the other thing that we need to do is make sure that the capitalist group does not own AI, that we have some sort of a payback. In other words, now that a lot of jobs are going to be lost from AI, etc., let's start talking about basic income. Let's start talking about things that are going to reduce the work week from 40 hours a week to 20 hours a week, and eventually, who knows, maybe 15, 10 hours a week in some sort of a way. Because the knowledge that AI has is us. Everything that they have is what we have put out there in the ethos. And I just wish more people would speak about it that way, as opposed to speaking about it like the big old boys are going to control it, and we the peons, we the slaves are going to be out here just begging for a job because it's going to take it all away. It's just not it. But anyway.
I agree with you for the most part. I do think that AI, in terms of some of the applications that it's being used for, has the potential to be pretty dangerous. When you're talking about the healthcare field, right? This is all stuff that it has learned from us.
Right.
But in terms of, I was reading something the other day from, and I can't recall the guy's name. He's a, an ethicist in the field of AI and, just digital technology, if you will. But he was talking about a situation where this AI inside of a corporation found out that the company was thinking about switching to a different type of AI.
Right.
And it started to do things to, blocking certain people's emails and just weird. It was like something out of a movie. Now, that is a whole lot more advanced AI than what I'm paying $20 a month for. But so it's there. And I think, like you said, the answer is, okay, you got to regulate this, just like any other dangerous machine that we might have.
Let me respond to that. AI can do that, but AI only does that because the algorithm that was put in there.
It's the prime directive, man. It's like protect yourself.
It didn't magically do that. And that's
I agree. Absolutely.
It was programmed to do that. The logic that it was programmed to do allowed it to do that, right? That is like saying if I have right now an automatic weapon that has a sensor on it, when somebody passes it, it figures it out and it starts shooting bullets when it sees. All of these.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely a programming thing. Yeah. It's just that we've gotten to that point where, that can happen.
What concerns me. Let me tell you what concerns me. And this is where I talk about we have to have a real social envelope around and everything. Right now, first of all, I don't believe in health insurance companies because, again, they use something called risk management so that they can make a profit. And risk management simply means denying us service or denying us getting an insurance policy with them. That's all it means. So here's my thing. Now with AI, right, they can actually go ahead and learn everything about you. They can go ahead and decide, well, you have a propensity to get this, or you're related to X, Y, Z, and based on the relationship you have with this particular group of folks or whatever, you're a higher risk, etc. And they can build a very accurate risk model because they know so much more about you, right? And in a capitalist market, right, that is something that has to be done, right? Because by definition, you're a stock guy. By definition, you want to make sure all of that stuff goes up, right? That is what it says. You're the God of the God said that, Mr. Milton Friedman. So AI has to be used. If you have a healthcare system, AI, your fiduciary responsibility to your company is to use AI to maximize profit for your company. So we can't blame the company.
It's just like anything else, man. It's like, I guess at some point we used to have, just look at every advancement though. The telephone, the typewriter, put some stenographers out of business probably.
Operators.
That's what I'm saying. And if you think about it, there's a video that floats. I've seen it on TikTok and on Instagram. And it's Neil deGrasse Tyson. And I remember it only because it's probably the only video with Joe Rogan in it that I've ever actually downloaded because I thought it was really a good message. But he was talking about how, and they showed a picture of like Manhattan in, I don't know, whatever year, 1898, nothing but horse-drawn carriages and, the unpaved streets and all that kind of thing. 10 years later, and I may have my years off, but 10 years later, nothing but vehicles. And there was like one, horse-drawn carriage, probably a tourist kind of thing, who knows? And so all that to, talk about the, I'm actually going to post a chart so folks should follow me. I was digging up stuff actually on the prediction market thing. And I ran across this chart and it just talks about the adoption of new technology and it shows it like in a linear fashion. And the example is how long it took 25% of the US population to adopt X. The first thing I think maybe is the radio. It's like 50 years before, 25% of the country had a radio. And then it just goes the telephone and you can just imagine different things. It gets to the microchip and so on and smartphones. And what it shows is the more we advance, the shorter the time frame is for adoption. And so we're at the place now where adoption is almost instant,
Right.
and I just think it's something interesting to consider when you think about AI. Is it going to hurt some folks? So I resisted even using chat. I don't even want to talk about Chat GPT until I was getting ready to do an Excel spreadsheet one day.
Marlon,
What?
until you used it, I fell in love.
Listen, dude, I will cop to it. I was working on a business plan for this little small business we've got. Folks that know me, it's the plant bus, right? And so I was doing some 5-year projections, and I had, Excel. I hadn't used it in like 10 years, and I'm trying to do these little formulas. And something said, hey, isn't this something Chat GPT does? So I just put my little scenario in there, and it came back and asked me some questions, maybe 10 questions. Dude, when I answered those 10 questions within seconds, I had a 5-year projected revenue. Whole thing would have taken me probably 2 days to do. And I said to my wife, to your point, I said, this shit is just like magic.
Let me tell you, Marlon, you just took folks out of business, right?
I know. I said to her, I said, oh, this is because you know what? If my newsletter had progressed organically to a place, eventually I would have had to hire I've been wanting to hire a research person, just not to write stuff for me, but the things that I look at. I want to know what's being said. I want to know that I have the right information, just so a research assistant, somebody you might pay, I don't know, 15 or 20 bucks an hour just to hunt down stuff for you.
Actually,
I don't pay that person now.
Let me tell you, this is let me just say, I don't, for those of you who follow my Substack, Egberto Off the Record, I have a particular format. I start all my I do a lot of reading, watching the news, etc. And then I pick up all of that, and then I come up with a narrative. And then that narrative, I immediately go to video, right? I don't, some people write a blog first, then they do I immediately go to video. And everything that I do is based on what I say on the video. Well, I go ahead and I do my video. I write my list. I go ahead and pass it through Chat GPT just to go ahead and, correct any spelling, all that good stuff. And then actually, if I put something down and I want a corroborative link for what I'm saying, I get it. And then I sit back down and I have this thing with KPFT where people donate and I go have lunch with them or breakfast with them or something like that. And one of the people that did that, I went to have lunch with them, and we were talking. He's I called him a corporate Republican. He's a great guy. He's a great guy. Let me just say that first offhand. And we were talking, and he was giving his, he was really a corporate guy, giving his spiel, and I explained to him the procedure, and he's like, oh yeah, I can explain that the work that I'm doing is the work of a media organization with 5 people. And why can I do that? Because I have AI, because I have automation tools. And this is before AI became standard. I use things like Zapier to move things around. I use things like Stream.io to stream me all over the place. There's so many tools that I have. I have these, tools that send the stuff to other social media things. Yeah. And it's like, wow, if I had to hire people to do all these different things that I do 16 hours a day, it would be, well, first of all, I couldn't afford it.
You couldn't do it.
I couldn't do it because our income, I think, is mostly, again, what we put out there with our newsletter, etc. And look, it doesn't, hey, $5 a month in credit.
It is not. And what people don't think about, like when you subscribe to a newsletter, okay, so it's $50 a year. Substack takes 10%. So now, okay, so you're down to 40. All right, then Stripe I assume that's everybody's payment processor on here. Stripe takes 1.5% or 50 cents or whatever it is. That's before you ever even get your money.
Right.
Okay. So if you want your money like fast, like today, they're going to charge you for that. But assuming it goes to your bank. Okay. So out of that $50, maybe you actually ended up with 45 maybe. And now that's like right now, my newsletter is half price. It's $25.
Right.
well, that's good current income, but it's not really profitable for me to do that. But I think it's worth it because any support helps, when you're trying to do this, right?
Absolutely. Let me tell you, I saw your half price deal, and I said to myself, that is great to bring folks in. I do that every so often
Yeah,
as well. But the thing about it is that really isn't sustainable. The thing about
it is not.
um,
It's not. I mean,
what
and in my case, I am almost to 500 paid subscribers.
I am too. Yeah.
I'm almost there. And I said, you know what? I want to reach that milestone, by during the holidays. I will do this for half off for the 80
You
folks
know
that
what?
will get me there.
Maybe that 500 person. I'm just a few away from that. Maybe that's what I'll do. You
That's
know.
now, I'm an old salesman, man. People don't realize when you're a trader, essentially you're a salesman because you have to get people to think you know what you're talking about. But yeah, I mean, that's the way I look at it. I'm like, you know what? I can not reach 500 or I can take a little bit less. And
Uh-huh.
for a year, folks can get it. And I figure a year later, if I'm doing my job, they'll be fine with paying the regular price than, a year from now.
I like that. It's funny because the emails that I get from people who read the newsletter, right? I get the most wonderful emails. Oh, thank you for doing that. Thanks for saying that. All of that. Thank you, Mary Brommer. I know you are, but yeah, I get the nicest letters, right? And I always put in my newsletter, remember that, and I make sure. I also make sure I call out my peeps, Marlon
Sure.
Weems and other folks, because I try to let folks know that if we want to progress from just mainstream media, both of them have to exist. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that mainstream media doesn't need to exist, but the guys that do what we do have to exist as well. We are out there touching people. I mean, I'm out there. I'm here in the office, and I'm out there meeting people, seeing where the pulse really is. And what gets me a lot of times, and you know this well, Marlon, is you listen to the pundits on TV. You listen to the folks that even, let's say, Kamala use or Trump use as their pundits, right? And by the way, Trump's pundits were the ones that they used to reach people were a lot better than Kamala's because he actually went grassroots. Kamala didn't go grassroots, and that's had to
Not
say,
grass enough.
yeah, didn't go grassroots. But
Don't get
I
me started, man.
I don't
We just have to go get the folks off the couch. We don't have to go get the folks that voted for Obama 20 years ago.
exactly. Let me tell you this. I listen to the pundits and what they're saying, and I'm like that. I am out there, Marlon. When we had the No Kings and all, I am out there. I'm talking Republicans, Democrats. I'm talking to all these folks at the grassroots level, and I'm listening to these pundits, and I'm like, what the hell are they talking about? You know why Mam Dandy won because he ignored all the pundits.
Yep. And
He
and he went to those folks that everybody said would not vote.
exactly. And
It's
those are the
not
ones who
rocket
brought
science.
it.
But what you're articulating, though, is again, we started off talking about capitalism. It is not in the interest of the pundits and the consultants to tell you to go get people who they do not control. They're not going to send business away from themselves. So it only works if now, there are probably some consultants out there that are saying what we're saying. I don't know who they are because the ones I keep hearing, every time I hear middle, I hit the mute button because I know where they're going. This imaginary unicorn, middle of the road person who can't decide. No.
Marlon, let me tell you this. The fact that I'm listening to and I say this with what's the word? With a lot of respect. I can't, because I'm not a capitalist, but you are. The fact that I have somebody like you saying what you're saying says exactly where we are as a society. You are one of the good ones, is what I guess I'm saying.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Daria. I kind of jokingly call myself a reformed capitalist. And by that, I mean, look, I used to run a trading desk on Wall Street. So
Uh-huh.
there's no sense in me trying to downplay where I come from.
Right.
But because of the seat that I sat in for all those years, when you step outside of that bubble, dude, you're like, so I have that knowledge, but now I'm in the real world of Main Street, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And so I just have a different, my point of view is informed by something different.
But
Having been on in the belly of the beast, kind of, I think.
want to say something better. I want to say something better because you know how it works.
I guess that's what I mean.
So
I know when I'll use Lehman Brothers as an example.
Right.
People have the concept that everybody on Wall Street's rich. Now, don't get me wrong. People on Wall Street make generally more money than people here in my neighborhood in North Carolina, but everything is proportionately more expensive too.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're making $200,000 in New York, you're not living that great. You pay your bills. But I mean, I moved from the last place I lived in New York. Well, it was actually in New Jersey, but just across from Midtown Manhattan. This is 2012 when I left New York. So 2012, my rent was $3,000 a month.
Wow.
Then when I moved to New York in 2000, I actually lived, in Manhattan. My wife and I, we didn't have kids. We want, like the song, we want to be able to say we had been on Broadway, Our rent was $3,500 a month, dude. That was in 2000.
That's a mortgage, man. That's
okay. I'm just saying so it's just a different mindset. When I first started, this is a funny story. All right, now I'll turn it over to you. But so I had just gotten hired. And so this would have been in late 2000. The company I went to work for, gave me the best deal. I mean, it caused me to leave Arkansas and move to New York. They put me up in a hotel for a month while my wife got arranged for us to move. They paid for all of that, paid me money up front. So I was doing okay. I'm walking out of the hotel one day, which was right next door to the Ed Sullivan Theater. So where the late show is. And a cab pulls up and toots the horn. It's my boss, the guy who's just hired me. And he's gonna give me a ride because I'm walking. So he asked me how things are going, and I tell him, and he says, "You know what? I'm gonna put you on a stipend because you don't make enough money. You don't make enough money because you're gonna have to eat out every day until you get moved." So I don't know, it was maybe $150 a day. And he said, "Yeah, I tell everybody that comes up, from out of state, you got to have that $100 because they have an air tax in New York. It costs you $100 to breathe every day." He said, for you to walk out the door and breathe, that's $100. So he put me on a $100 a day stipend to cover the air tax. Yeah. And I needed it, dude. I didn't realize it was expensive. Just one guy. I'm in the middle of Broadway. Where am I going to go to get some food? I don't know the neighborhood. I don't know where the regular people eat. I found out pretty quick.
Yes.
Where are you going, Egberto? Let me go there, because...
Well, let me tell you, I'm a frugal guy. I mean, even when I go on vacations, if I go to Jamaica or I go to Belize or wherever.
Oh, I can do that, man. You figure out where the locals eat. But in New York City,
to scare my wife because I would go into some place. We went to Belize, right? And we met we were on a boat and we met some Iranian folks on the ship. It was a cruise, and we had like 12 hours or something like that. And the ship was charging all this money for the thing. I went out to the place and I talked to the guys. Hey, give me the deal. We went out there, and because probably like 50 miles into the country, go ahead and go into some caverns, etc.
Okay.
And the whole time, my wife and the Iranian couple, they were complete. But I mean, it's adventurous in me, and also the realization, don't let anybody fool you. Most people in the world, whether in the United States or abroad, are good people. The exceptions is what you see.
Listen, people used to, the first time I went to New York, I went to Harlem. I had never been to New York. This was in the 80s. So
before the what you call not indoctrination, what you call it again, when they start to change the neighborhood.
Before they gentrified it. No, this is when the subways had spray painted, graffiti on them and all this kind of stuff. And so my client was Freedom National Bank, which was the bank that Jackie Robinson started back in the day. And so I was going to visit them, and I filled out all my little paperwork. And the next thing I know, this secretary, is like, Marlon, are you really going to Harlem? Like they were acting like they thought I was, and maybe I was taking my life in my own hands. I didn't see it that way, but it's interesting from that initial visit until I left New York in 2012, never had a single encounter, never had anybody mess with me, like in, fear of violence or any of that. Went through some, blackouts, 9/11, all that kind of stuff, but never. And it could be, I'm kind of a big guy. Maybe people avoid me. I don't know what. Dude, I have gone to sleep on the subway and asked somebody to wake me up, man. Is this your stop?
Marlon, let me tell
Nobody
you,
ever messed with me.
we're in a society who wants to have people scared, because if people are scared, they can have big police departments. If people are scared, they can have all the money to lock people up. Like I said, I'm not naive. I've been all over the place, and I am from a town where the bad neighborhoods in the United States look pretty damn good.
Listen, man, I mean, it's
and I don't mean to be deprecating or anything
no,
like
look.
that. I'm just saying there are parts of Colón, where the province that I'm from in Panama,
Okay.
where people, if they go there, oh my God, and I walk down the streets, they're just fine, cautious, of course, but I've not found too many places in the United States, or that are like that. I may be concerned if I went to Trenchtown, Jamaica, or if I went to some parts of Colón, Panama, or some parts of Limon, Costa Rica, or something like that. But again, people live in all these places. People live in all these places every single day.
Right.
And
9 times out of 10, they're not thinking about you. They're just trying to go about their business. But I saw someone, they were talking about small apartments. I saw someone in the chat saying that, talking about the size of a so small, where like the bathroom was, I saw a photograph of just some people exchanging, on that topic. And I don't know where this was, but the toilet was inside of the area where the shower was. So I don't know how that's supposed to work. It wouldn't work for me. And the guy said he was paying over $400 a night for this place. A night. And I was like, dude, you need to reevaluate. I'd never seen this before. The toilet was inside of the area with the glass door, and the shower was right there. It was all one thing, and it's the craziest looking thing I've ever seen. I'll post it, man. It's so I never had to live anywhere that small. My $3,500 a month apartment, 30 years ago, they said it was a 3-bedroom or a 2-bedroom. I don't know how they arrived at that.
About it, Laura said, that's nasty.
Oh, it's nasty. Yeah. That's a given. I was looking at it and I was like, how you going to call yourself clean after you come out of that shower? I mean, how's that going to even work? Right. So, yeah, I looked at it kind of askance, and maybe I should put it in and make sure it's not a hoax,
Marlon, maybe they had proceeded. But anyway, look, let's get into a few listeners. Look, thank you for listening to our musing. Sometimes that make it some fun, and we get to talk to you as well. But here's what I want to talk about as well, my brother. And that is, what are your thoughts about Donald Trump? And I don't want to get into Venezuela because that is completely... Anyway, what do you think about where we're going to head January 1st with healthcare? Something that is really going to materially affect millions of people right away. And not only folks on the healthcare exchange, but others who, because the healthcare exchange is
it's going to make everybody's bill go up.
What are your thoughts?
Because what do you do? Well, what's going to happen is most people are just going to say, fine, I'm not going to have healthcare.
Right.
And if they get sick, or when they get sick or have an accident, they're just going to go to the emergency room.
Right.
And that is going to make, because the emergency room's got to see them. So and it's going to be disastrous because, I say go to the emergency room. The emergency room might be 50 miles away because they're going to be some rural hospital. They're already closing. Okay.
Let me tell you something. Daria just says in the chat, her her health insurance doubled. It is now
Oh, I see.
$1,800 a month. Hey, Daria, I have a question. Two questions. One, are you going to pay the $1,800 or are you going to go without insurance? And I'm writing a piece that where I'm getting stories from people that I want to hear real stories as far as what people are going to do. And there's another thing that I'd like to do, Daria, if you are comfortable doing a quick 2, 3, 4 minute Zoom type interview, because I want to get an aggregate ready for January as far as what people are going to do. So anybody that's listening to us right now, drop me a line. I want to start building that repertoire of what's going on, because there's nothing like telling stories
Yep.
for these politicians to understand. So I really want to know. Let's see what Darius says. Super mad for everyone who can. I'm going to pay. Oh my God, Darius is going to pay. You see, this is what's so disconcerting. Darius can afford to pay the $1,800 a month, which is really
That's a lot. That's a lot, man.
$22,000
A year.
Okay. All right, Darius. Thank you very much. So, I mean, it is interesting because, wow, that one you just got to me, Darius, with that.
That man, you think about it like this. That's a house note,
Yeah.
right? I mean, for a small house, it's rent for sure, right? And to just go from whatever she was paying, I would assume it's probably half that.
That's what she said. It was $900 something before. This is extortion.
Well, I am unable to understand the Republican strategy exactly, because the people who, just by and large, the people who will get hurt by this are going to be their constituents.
Yes. Yes.
I don't understand the calculus of acting like this is just, just another day. Like nothing big, no big deal.
Though, or not, I think I understand what's going on here. There are two things. Republicans have always wanted to destroy the Affordable Care Act. They always wanted to do that because they don't believe in collectivism at all.
Well, I mean, think about it. They've had what, 15 years to come up with just something. Yesterday, I heard Rand Paul in an interview say, and I had to rewind it to make sure I understood what he was saying. He basically worked his way around to saying, well, what if people could just join Costco? And, Costco, because it's a membership, they've got this big group, and they could just get their insurance through Costco. And I'm thinking to myself, well, why are you going to put that burden on Costco? Number one, why are you going to make me? Maybe I don't like Costco. You're going to make me go join Costco just to get freaking insurance?
I want to show you the hypocrisy. When Obamacare came out and they had the mandate on, right? They said it was illegal for you to mandate somebody.
People even get insurance.
Right.
But now then you hear Trump saying, well, I just want to give the money to the people and let them go get their own insurance. That's what this is. That's what Obamacare is. And again, why are you going to make it so hard on people to have to go and search and hunt and try to figure out? It doesn't make any kind of sense.
That was the purpose of the exchange. The purpose of the exchange was twofold: to put a marketplace where everybody could go and see, and also to ensure that every policy that is on the marketplace it's a valid, non-fraudulent.
Exactly. And you know what happened? A whole lot of these insurance companies went away.
Right.
When I started an investment firm in Little Rock in 1995. So way before Obamacare. And, it's me and 3 or 4 other people. We're not big enough to get like a big, a good insurance policy like the one that I had just left behind. And I ended up with one of these policies like, if you ever seen that movie, The Rainmaker, they would not pay. They never paid for anything the entire time that I was with them.
Let me tell you, I've been in business for myself since 1989.
So you know what I mean?
Yes. So here's the thing. I always had a huge deductible, $10,000 deductible. And
Hmm.
my prices eventually reached the point where Daria is right now. There's a time I was paying like $1,900 a month, $10,000 deductible. My wife, myself, and eventually, my wife went to drive school buses to bring the burden down. What the insurance that we had to pay out of pocket was, but it was a burden that was eaten at you constantly, and the policy wasn't even all that good.
I
That's
lucked
what happened.
out because
Yeah.
when I left New York, the last and just to put in perspective how I mean that $1,800 a month, man, that's no joke. Now, granted, I'm working on Wall Street. This was a family plan, and the way we were, ironically, under the umbrella of Cantor Fitzgerald, which was Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary, was the CEO there. Now his, I think, two sons are running that business. They own part of the firm where I work.
Mhm.
So we got to sort of piggyback a lot of their stuff. Insurance was one. I still was paying close to $2,000 a month
Yes.
for, but the way they did it was it depended on how much you were, what your, where you were on the revenue scale. So the employees who made less paid less, and the
Bill
ones who
subsidy.
made a lot, we basically subsidized the secretaries and so forth.
I want to talk to, I think her name is Cindy. This is important here. Cindy says, my mom is going back to original Medicare because her Part C company is leaving the state. She contacted about a gap plan and they were able to access her medical records. How? That's dangerous. She was denied. They aren't allowed to do that. Let me give you some rules here, Cindy, and this is something you're
That's a
going
HIPAA
to
violation, isn't it?
yeah, that's number one. But number two is here is how Medicare, first of all, nobody should, if you have the extra money for a Medigap program when you turn 65, folks, go with traditional Medicare and Medigap. Do not go Medicare Part C, which is Medicare Advantage. Let me tell you what the exceptions are. And thank you for putting this out, Cindy, because it gives me the option to say this. Thank you for this. Cindy, because the company left the state, you have the ability to go back to traditional Medicare and qualify for Medigap without pre-authorization. In other words, if you started out with Medicare Advantage, if you wanted to go back to Medicare, traditional Medicare, the gap plan you have to go through the tables again, the actuarial tables based on your illness, based on your age, etc. But if the company left the state, leaving you without a Medicare Part C option, a Medicare Advantage option, then you qualify for getting Medigap at the same price somebody is getting Medigap right as soon as they signed up for Medicare traditional. Please fight for that and don't let them pull a fast one over you. Your mother must have had some illness and they look it up and now they want to say, well, we don't want to carry that risk. Remember, these companies are evil. Let's be very clear. We need Medicare Advantage. I mean, we need Medicare for all, period. These companies are evil. They're not in it for you. So please, those of you that are listening to me that are about to turn 65, if you can, do not take Medicare Advantage at all. Please. Sorry for going off on a tangent.
No, dude, you know what?
I
I am one of those people that took Medicare Advantage because I didn't think that I could afford to do the conventional Medicare at the time. So am I screwed now?
Here's the thing for you. Hope there's first of all, you're healthy, so you may be able to go to Medicare and still be able to afford a Medigap. Because when they go through the actuarial tables, you may still be okay to have a decent price. But there are some people that come back with, let's say, testicular cancer or ovarian cancer or something, and they want and Medicare Advantage doesn't want them to get coverage at the Kettering Institute. So they say, well, look, if I were on traditional Medicare, I could go to Kettering. Well, you can't because this Medicare Advantage, Kettering doesn't take Medicare Advantage. So now you want to switch. Well, if you switch, that 20% that Medicare doesn't pay is what Medigap is to cover, but Medigap isn't going to pick you up because you still have a Medicare Advantage program. But in the case of Cindy's Medicare Advantage disappeared. So now she has the right by law to pick up Medicare again without the penalty of having, of that middle thing. Now, again, if you went ahead and chose, these people are crooked the way they sell it. Remember,
I got it through AARP, man, and it's like,
it is crooked.
listen, dude, they got me. What can I tell you, man?
No,
And it's not, yeah, it's not bad. I haven't had anything happen to me though.
But let me tell you, brother, I don't want anybody who took Medicare Advantage to go ahead and think, oh, why did, I'm telling you, the sales machine, many people who wanted traditional Medicare thought they had traditional Medicare, but the salesperson was so devious in the way they did it. They call it Medicare Part C, gives you XYZ, and you think you're getting traditional Medicare. It's not your fault. I mean, it was designed to simply corrupt the way they tell you things. I've been doing a lot of research on this because I'm a Medicare. I was working on Medicare for All with a whole lot of organizations, right? And that's how I learned about all the trickery that goes on here. But what I'm saying, for those who have the ability to move back, do so. If you have the ability, like in your case, Marlon, I just as a matter of exercise, I would go ahead and see what I would call these different companies that sell Medigap and see what they would charge you compared to right at 65, and see if maybe it's 20% more or something like that. Something like that is worth it.
So what's the reason? Why would I? What's the benefit I get for going back to old Medicare?
The future. Because as you and I get older, we get sicker.
Yes.
As we get sicker, they may want to throw us into a hospital that doesn't give the best coverage for what we want. They may not allow us to have certain medications that they want us, that your doctor may want you to have, while traditional Medicare leaves it up to the doctor to decide what your coverage is going to be. In other words, if your doctor said you need to go to Kettering, you're going to Kettering. If your doctor tells you you need to go to XYZ, you're going to go to XYZ. Under Medicare Advantage, you don't get that option. You do whatever is in their plan, no options.
So, for example, like I have to go get an MRI on my shoulder. So
right.
Like you said, I'm getting older. The wheels are starting to wear out. So if I had I had to go see my regular doctor, and then he sends me to a specialist in their group, which I'm fine with them around here. It's not like I'm in a giant, metropolitan area. So I'm still seeing the doctors I would normally see. And then they've got me scheduled for an MRI next week. So if I had just regular Medicare, could I have just cut out the middleman and just gone? Would it be the same?
No pre-authorization.
Okay. So I could just call up and schedule an MRI.
Right. And then you give them your Medicare.
Assuming I needed it. I mean,
Right. Exactly. I mean, again, the thing about it is it gives the freedom, and even your primary, I don't know if MRI companies just go ahead and take you in or not.
Right. Yeah. Somebody would, there'd have to be a reason for the procedure. Right. I got that.
But your primary physician may say, go get an MRI on that, bring it back to me, then I'll decide if you need to go to a specialist or whatever. Right. But at that point, it is in you and your doctor's hands, right? You decide who your doctor is going to be. And your doctor decide with you what is your best cost of action. With Medicare Advantage and all these HMOs, Medicare Advantage is nothing more than an HMO, okay? And they give the rights. And I tell you, I played a piece on my radio show a couple of about 3 or 4 days ago, where Nixon was introduced Ehrlichman introduced healthcare for, giving people better healthcare. And Nixon said, I'm not into that. And then the guy said, hey, but I spoke to the guy at the, not Kelsey, I don't remember the name of the guy who was promoting HMOs. And Nixon said, but I'm not into that. And the guy then said, but you know what? They restrict healthcare. And you know why they restrict healthcare? Because they make more money. And Nixon says, oh, I kind of like that. And the day after, I have it at my place. So that's Substack.com. You can see that piece. It was in that movie Sicko. They have they have the actual tape of Nixon saying, I like that. They make all this money from denying care. And then the next day, Nixon gives a press conference and he says, because we want to take care of your health, we have this new policy, ta-ta-ta-ta. And it's a policy of really denying you care. It's a policy of denying you care. So, I mean, folks that are listening to us, look, all of this we're gonna have to take into our own hands because there's nobody there helping us out but us.
No
you know,
doubt.
but us. And that's the reason we do the shows. That's the reason Marlon and I talk. That's the reason I do Politics Done Right on Off the Record on some site. That's the reason he does his thing. We all bring our specialities here so that we can better inform people, you know? And a lot of this you're not gonna get on mainstream media, so support us, man.
That is a fact.
You know, a lot of it. But Cindy, I saw the AARP coverage and glad we didn't take it now that I see others comment about it. Look, AARP, I thought would be your friend. AARP has gotten into bed with the Medicare Advantage insurance companies. Let me tell you better. A lot of your unions, I'm talking employer unions, a lot of your employer unions have gotten into bed with the Medicare Advantage. And you know why? Because the bosses are paid off. Remember this, people. Remember this. Remember what the mayor of New York had to do. What's his name? That just
Mamdani?
not Mandami, the one that he replaced.
Eric Adams.
Eric Adams. Remember, Eric Adams had to come in and stop the union because these people were all they were used to having good insurance and they were all gonna be thrown into a Medicare Advantage program. And they rebelled. The union workers rebelled, but who knows what's going to happen thereafter. But all of us should really be looking into making sure we only elect politicians that support Medicare for all. Because, man, look at what Cindy's going to have to pay now. Or Cindy's parent, about Daria. Look at what Daria's going to have to pay now, you know? It's a shame. But anyway, look, man, give me a closer. We are having so much fun. Look, I
didn't even realize what time it was.
Yeah, I love having these conversations with you because when people come into the conversation as well, it kind of changes the topic and allow us to talk about some of the things both of us know about, you know? So give me a closer, my brother.
It's just to kind of go back to where we started, just talking about the economic situation. Today we'll get a cut in interest rates. Maybe that'll mean something to somebody, but by and large, it's not going to change my life any,
Right.
and probably not most people. I think we're in for more of the same, dude. I have to say, because, here's what you got with the Fed. They've got jobs starting to bleed out.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have, relatively high inflation. It's not like it was 2 years ago, but it's still, and then on top of that, you got tariffs driving up the price of everything. That's in a large part of what's happening. It's tariffs. So until that kind of thing changes, we just have to buckle up.
Well, let me tell you, I'm going to give my closer this way. I'm always an optimist, and I'm going to tell everybody that the elections are coming. I'm very political. My brother's a financial guy. I mean, he's a money man.
I'm a political guy, I have to tell you. So yeah, we come at it from different angles, but yeah.
I am teasing you. I'm teasing you. But for me, everything is political. Okay. But remember, 2026 is coming. We have to gear up for 2026. It doesn't happen on November. We have to start building. We got to start building our spheres of influence. We have to start doing all these things to support that infrastructure that's going to encourage, as Marlon said earlier, get the people off of the couch. Bring these people back in. We have to be ready to do all of that. And to do all of that, you have to have the Marlons around. You have to have the Egbertos around. You have to have those of us that have the platforms that are going to bring people in. And to do that, I want to ask all of you guys to support our platforms. Marlon, the Journeyman, bring him up to 500 and bring Egberto Off the Record up to 500 paid subscriptions. I tell you, we work hard to support what we do here. We work hard to support everybody. Marlon, as usual, it's always a great pleasure to speak to you.
Same here, man.
Always something to learn, my brother.
I think you need to do one on Medicare because you actually taught me a little bit about. I did not get good advice when I had to make that decision. So
well, I mean that's by design, my brother. But look, thank you so kindly for spending this time with me, and let's keep doing this. All right?
Absolutely.
All of of our country's problems, from polarization to ignorance on domestic and international issues to a complete misunderstanding of our economic and healthcare systems, are a direct result of a derelict mainstream media that too often bend over backwards to support corporate or bought politicians' wants as opposed